A young man named Max is on the roof of his house, peacefully sketching the river in his sketchbook. Suddenly, his mother Molly calls him down politely, asking for his help in moving their bags to their new home. She expresses excitement about this fresh start in their lives. Max playfully jokes with her, reflecting on their frequent moves in the past. Max obediently enters his bags and glances at a photo of his late father before noticing the star decorations his father had made. As the TV turns on, Molly notices a disturbance in the electricity, but dismisses it and goes to sleep. Max, however, realizes that something strange is happening to his hand, as it affects electrical devices. The next day, while riding his bike to school, Max spots the gates of an abandoned company where his father used to work. As he answers a call on his mobile, an electric surge from his hand causes it to turn off. Fortunately, he avoids a potential bike accident with the car and falls to the ground. The car owner, Sophia, who happens to be his classmate, kindly checks if he is okay and invites him to meet her after school. After school, Max accepts Sophia's offer to drive him to her home, where she repairs his bike, which was damaged in the accident. Max then returns home and has dinner with his father's friend, Miles. During the meal, it is revealed that Miles was responsible for Molly's decision to move and start anew. Max feels frustrated, believing that Miles is somehow connected to his father's death. However, Miles explains that he had tried to save Max's father at the abandoned company. Later, in a swimming pool, a strange light appears, causing two scientists to investigate. As they approach the water, the molecules spread, forming crystal-like ice. Concerned about a potential security breach, the scientists report the incident. Meanwhile, a mysterious presence appears on the computer screen. The scientists track its location, but it quickly escapes the company. In the evening, Max searches for information about his father's death online, finding several possible explanations, including a hurricane on the day of the accident. Frustrated by the lack of a definitive answer, Max becomes increasingly anxious. Suddenly, he notices electricity emanating from his hand again, but this time, he manages to control it. The next day, he goes to the woods to experiment with his newfound power on electrical devices, feeling both surprised and excited. At school, Max sits alone, engrossed in drawing, when Sophia approaches him, expressing her interest in going on a date. Back at home, Max asks his mother about his father and expresses his frustration at not knowing the full story. Molly explains that the situation is complicated and she is unable to provide all the answers. As Max ponders over these thoughts, a flying object appears in the distance, observing him. Though Max remains unaware, Max then meets Sophia at a restaurant, where they get to know each other better and become friends. Just as Sophia hands her phone to Max for him to input his number, the phone suddenly turns off. Meanwhile, Max experiences a severe headache from the flow of electricity within his body, prompting him to rush to the bathroom, where he has a panic attack. Overwhelmed, he quickly runs to the woods and screams in pain, unwittingly releasing electricity into the sky. The next day, Max wakes up to discover burn marks on his bed sheets and wounds on his chest, bewildered by how they appeared. Suddenly, the flying object, named Steel, approaches Max and introduces himself. Steel explains Max's incredible powers and assures him that he is there to protect him. Hearing strange noises from Max's room, Molly investigates, but Max hides Steel in a laundry box. Shortly after, Steel offers to help Max by absorbing the excess electrical energy within his body. They venture into the woods, discussing Max's powers and how to harness them effectively. However, their conversation is interrupted when they spot a black car and a group of armed thugs emerging from it, searching for Steel's secrets. Max and Steel manage to escape, fleeing from the thugs. Later, Max goes to school, concealing Steel in his bag, but Steel inadvertently causes a commotion, attracting the attention of his classmates. After school, Max heads to an abandoned building, where Steel imparts further knowledge about his powers and how to utilize them. Max becomes fixated on his newfound strength and ignores Steel's advice. Now understanding how to control his powers, Max even discovers the ability to leap great distances. Suddenly, Max finds himself wearing an armor-like suit similar to Steel's, triggering flashbacks of his father. Eager to confront Miles and share his experiences, Max encounters Sophia along the way. As the black car reappears, Max hastily flees, leaving Sophia confused and concerned. Max enters a narrow corridor, realizing that he and Steel must separate to evade capture. Emerging from the corridor, Sophia approaches Max, but he remains silent, asking her to drive him to the abandoned company instead. During their conversation, Max opens up about the pain he endured as a child due to his father's death. Arriving at the company building, Max is greeted by Miles. Max politely asks him to please share with him what happened to his father, but Miles chooses not to discuss anything. Suddenly, Max starts to feel a headache due to the electrical energy in his body. To alleviate this, he quickly leaves the building and leads Sophia there alone. However, Sophia is confused about what is happening with Max. As night falls, a strong wind blows over Max, indicating that something is about to happen. In response, Max takes cover under a train and witnesses a woman screaming due to a hurricane, and her car suddenly stopping. Max rushes to her aid, using the electricity in his body to get her car's battery working again. Seeking shelter, Max hides in a garage. But due to the hurricane, the garage starts to fly in the air and Max finds himself amidst the chaos once more. It becomes apparent that the hurricane is actually an alien entity with control over wind and water. It is revealed that this alien is the one responsible for Max's father's death and now has intentions to kill Max. Fortunately, Steel comes to Max's aid, and together they join forces. Steel explains how Max can combat the alien, and with their combined powers, they manage to defeat it. However, upon inspecting the fallen alien, Max notices that it resembles Steel. Steel attempts to clarify that this alien is one of the evil beings from space that he and Max's father were fighting against, but Max remains skeptical. Feeling distant from Steel, Max walks away alone and eventually arrives at Sophia's house. He borrows her mobile phone and rubber gaskets to protect himself from electricity, then drives her car and calls Miles. Max expresses his concern about armed individuals who are on the loose and worries about his mother Molly's whereabouts. In response, Miles suggests that the armed people may have taken Molly to the lab where Max's father worked. Max decides to go there and discovers Steel's operating system. This triggers flashbacks of his father's death during an alien attack on the lab. Max realizes that his father possessed the same abilities as him and was using a device to focus his energy while fighting the aliens. However, Miles, who was aligned with the aliens, took advantage of the situation and drained Max's father's power, resulting in his death. Max now understands that Miles intends to do the same to him. Meanwhile, Miles has united with an alien and dons an armor suit. He confronts Max in the room with the energy focusing device that Max's father created. When Max attempts to control Miles' suit with his powers, he failed. As a last resort, Max enters the focusing device and reunites with Steel. This grants Max even greater strength, enabling him to fight and ultimately defeat Miles. The armed individuals enter the room, but instead of attacking Max, they assist him. It becomes clear that Molly had assigned them to protect Max. Exhausted from the battle, Max and Steel regain consciousness. Molly, who recognizes Steel, reveals that she has known him for a long time and is relieved that her son and Steel are still alive. It is then revealed that Max's father was an alien in human form. Molly explains the events of her past to her son, including how the aliens had been trying to kill him ever since they discovered his location. As a result, Molly and Max were constantly on the move. Through turning on the energy in the stars in his room, Max discovers that they were not just decorations. They display 3 maps of space, one of which Max recognizes as the planet his father used to live on. Eventually, Max pays a visit to Sophia to apologize for walking away without explanation. He explains that he was accustomed to living alone but appreciates her support. As a gesture of goodwill, he presents her with a portrait he had previously drawn for her, and they agree to meet again on a specific date. Afterward, Max reunites with Steel, and they soar together over the river.